You're listening to Digital Now, an original business and technology podcast by Logic 2020. I'm your host, Matt Treville. Each episode, I will be interviewing a new expert to learn more about industry trends, fascinating new tech, shifting customer expectations, and the steps every business can take to stay ahead. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. Today, I have with me a very special guest, Marc Tausend. Marc is a manager in our strategy and operations practice here at Logic 2020. He specializes in connecting information and people to create collaborative solutions. And from a personal note, Marc, one thing that I think sets you apart from the most is you're a thought leader, but you're also someone who rolls his sleeves up and gets stuff done, which is a very handy pairing. So welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you, Matt. Happy to be here and appreciate the kind words. Flattered, humbled.
Yeah, well, I knew you weren't going to say about yourself. You're too modest. So I'm going to say it for you.
You're going to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, mate. So today we're talking about the consulting world and where we're at right now and in this sort of these crazy times that we're in. So how about we start off with this, right? Let's get straight into sort of the market right now and like the demand for consulting and sort of, can you comment on where we're at for people listening?
Yeah, absolutely. And Matt, you and I are very much in this and experiencing it right now, right? But
yes,
the market is wild. We are in a space where right now the demand for consultants is far outstripping the current supply. Presents a lot of inherent challenges, obviously, for us as a consulting firm, both in terms of the opportunities that we're looking to fill, and the fact that we're carrying very light bench currently and actively trying to seek out new great people to bring aboard. But when it's a highly competitive market out there, being able to find great people becomes a little more challenging. You have to sort of explore some nuanced and creative ways to approach it.
Well, can you talk a bit more about those creative ways? Because it's interesting, because I know, yourself, you're so heavily involved in like interviewing new people that might be joining Logic 2020 and things like that. How are you being creative in this time? What are you thinking about when you're doing the interviews and stuff like that?
Right. Well, it's a great question. You kind of have to search high and search low in a lot of ways. I think the aspirational approach to talent acquisition and recruiting and finding people is really sort of trying to map it pretty straight to the four or so core capabilities that in our strategy and operations practice we sort of try to model as solutions, and that's really project management, looking for project managers, product as well, or digital marketing, change management, organizational transformation, and then, strategy and organizational design. In a perfect world, you're going to find people that clearly can fit into one of those buckets. They have the requisite experience, ideally, from other consulting firms or something where it's just very clearly mapped on their experience. You start there and you explore and you go. I think what we're finding is, again, the folks that are out there, it's competitive, it's tough to get them. Sometimes, again, like there aren't that many out there. And so how do we then look for people that are doing a lot of the things that a project manager or a change manager or a strategic thinker might be doing, but maybe in a different way or possibly currently in a different industry? So it's sort of let's dispense with consulting industry and look more at how people work versus maybe what they're doing, and then try to see and take some educated risks in terms of do we believe that they're going to be able to apply those same type of traits in a new industry with our clients in a way that's going to add value and drive success both for us as the company as well as for our clients that we're serving.
Yeah, so it's like expanding the mind a little bit, right? To sort of stretch and think, okay, they're doing this in maybe a non-profit organization or something like that, but that could lend itself to be very successful in consulting. Is that sort of what you're talking about?
Right, exactly. I would say, yeah, expanding the mind, casting a wider net. we oftentimes, I think, find that we will miss out on a lot of incredible, great, talented people if we are keeping our search very narrow. You think about it the same thing as, if you're only seeking out great consultants in the, Seattle metro area, think about all the people across, other markets or 49 other states that maybe
Yeah.
aren't being considered. And, it's certainly in this remote working environment, we'd be doing ourselves a disservice if we weren't, looking at things through a different lens. I consider it the same thing if we're only focused on a traditional project manager or consultant or change manager or strategy consultant. You might be missing people that, as you said, at a nonprofit, maybe within sort of a, more corporate structure, like, working in finance, working in healthcare. Industry is something that I think, while it adds value and maybe like bolsters someone's experience down the line, just from a work they've done and familiarity, the core sort of traits that make a great consultant are things that transcend industry and
Yeah.
oftentimes transcend profession. You can drop these people into just about any type of room and they're going to find a way to develop strong relationships with any party, high or low, that's
Yeah.
already there.
That's so important, that piece, isn't it? Like when they're on the ground delivering, they have to be able to create connections with the clients or the influencers, the stakeholders, everyone around sort of their little area, So I've noticed that's when you find a very successful person in these sorts of roles, they usually have that trait. Um, which sort of leads me like we talk a lot about the logic values here,
Mhm.
obviously. Um, is it is it easy to align people to those as you're interviewing, and sort of is that how you do you look there and then maybe revisit the skill sets and things like that? Can you explain that part?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a great thing for, us as a company to anchor on when we're seeking out new talent. And, at its core, we want to ensure that we're, identifying and attracting and bringing in people whose personal values are aligning to those of the company. And you can oftentimes bucket some of these, soft skills, less immediately identifiable traits that you and I are kind of discussing into sort of the three core values buckets that Logic has in, driving towards excellence. I mean, what that's really about doing is let's find creative ways to add value and make something better. And in doing so, we don't want to bring a lot of ego to it. And we're recognizing and maybe cognizant that, we don't know a client's business as well as they do, but we're going to do everything we can, early on to find ways to be supportive and offer our help. I think that's something that, a lot of people can identify with. Likewise, I think, in terms of acting with integrity, that's core to who a person is, right? It's about following through on your commitments and keeping your promises. And if for some reason maybe your ability to follow through on a commitment is in jeopardy, being transparent and open in the way you communicate, strong communication, giving accurate information in an open and honest way
Yeah.
is so key, right? Because that's how you build stronger relationships, not only with your clients, but with your peers, your teammates, your colleagues, the people around you. And people tend to flock to folks that carry themselves that way. And it's a pretty good segue, obviously, into fostering a culture of we, which at its core is really about, like, you're thoughtful and inclusive of others. You're looking to build the people around you up. You're a team player. You're eager to collaborate and share and find ways to help other people. And just in terms of mapping that back a little bit to how we search, you think about people with a lot of volunteer experience, right? Like that at its core is about finding ways to help other people.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
so you can map a lot of these values into either work experience people have, or activities outside of work where maybe they've honed some of these traits or will learn these traits over time.
Yeah. It's I think it's a good indicator, that one particularly, like someone who cares about others and is going to give their time to do it generally can relate to a pretty good person to work with. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily rocket science. And
Right.
I'll say, in my experience, when I was transitioning to this, to this world, uh, reading the Logic values and then especially the culture of we, that really stood out to me, and it's something, I wanted to be a part of. But so can you speak more about that, about some of the like additional activities, or personal backgrounds? I know you mentioned volunteering, but like I guess we both came from a sporting background, right? So that's got to be one of them that
Yeah.
might help. Can you talk through some of those that you look for?
Well, absolutely. And yes, Matt, I think you and I, this is very personal for both of us. And just as a quick tangent, as we explore that space a little bit, both you and I came from non-traditional backgrounds. Consulting was new to us at various points that we sort of like leaned into this part of our career. And I can actually attribute a lot of, the opportunity I was given directly to Christian, our CEO, who was one of the first people that sort of helped me recognize, hey, focus a little bit less on what you've done. I personally came from, my prior stop was 7 years in marine operations and supply chain.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's something where it wasn't necessarily obvious to me that consulting was going to, be the right path. And he was the one that said, hey, you're thinking about this the wrong way. Focus more on how you work and the traits that made you successful in what you did previously. Those can all be applied in this industry too. So, and I think those traits, Matt, for me and you, yes, it was for us. I think it was athletics, right? And athletics is a place where you're going to learn, if it's a team or an individual sport, you're going to learn accountability. You're going to learn attention to detail. You're going to learn about commitment, right? And practice and working hard to get the outcomes that you want. If it is a team sport, it's all about bringing that very little ego and, putting your self second to what is best for the team. Those are all traits that are
Yeah.
immediately applicable and desirable to anybody in any profession. But, I think sports and athletics for you and I, that's familiar. But what I just described, dance, art, music, there are so many things out there. There's a lot of activities that require those same traits for people to get strong and become really proficient and use and hone a skill, right?
Yeah,
And
definitely.
and what I think we're looking for is taking some educated risks as we assess the person and trying to say, we believe that this person who was so great at this particular activity is going to take the same traits and principles that made them good there and apply that in a new role and in a new profession and in a new career. And they
Yeah.
will be just as successful here because at their core, that's who they are more than what they've done.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. If you can play the piano and play in a band, you've learned a skill and you've worked well with others. Like to bring it back to a very simple example.
Yeah.
Well, mate, this has been a fantastic conversation. I could talk to you for hours, but I know we've got a we've got a deadline on this. But I wanted to thank you for your time today. I think you've given a really great perspective on sort of where we're at, sort of the consulting world that we're living through right now, the market, all those sorts of things. So really appreciate your time, and I hope we can do this again soon.
Likewise, Matt, I really appreciate you having me on. And yeah, you and I can and have spent a lot of time talking about these very things. I think, as
Yeah.
you know, it's and as you can probably tell, it's near and dear to my heart. It's
Yeah.
something I believe strongly in. It's something I'm passionate about. I'm so eager not only to be able to help new consultants sort of find those hidden gems that are surely out there. And
Mm.
likewise, not only find and create a space and an opportunity for them, to grow and blossom, but likewise match them up with exciting projects and opportunities where they're going to be able to thrive and, really drive that kind of value for our clients that we're constantly looking to deliver. So thank you for having me, and hope we get to do it again.
No worries, mate. What you just said is exactly why you're so valuable. So thank you. Appreciate it, mate. And I'll speak to you soon.
Absolutely. Been a pleasure, man.
See ya.
Take care.
You've been listening to Logic 2020's podcast, Digital Now. To learn more, visit our website at logic2020.com or follow us on social media. See you next time.